My name is Yanfei, top legal expert in Liyue, and for the avoidance of doubt, no one else comes close. From commercial litigation, to civil mediation, to criminal lawsuits, I'm fully versed in every area of the law, and I guarantee you a swift and satisfactory conclusion to your case. My contact details? Where should I write this down? Paper will just get lost, and it'll only rub off if I write it on the back of your hand, so... Aha! I know! I'll just write it here on the close of this... whatever this thing is that follows you around. I'll remind you again. The law can be both a help and a hindrance. Sometimes the law is compatible with human nature, but sometimes the two conflict. Balancing the two is a discipline in its own right. The case before us is a strange and unprecedented one indeed. Rain! Oh, Lord of Geo, please do us a favor and clear this up at your earliest convenience. I submit that we cannot afford for the codices to get damp. What the? What kind of injurious weather is this? It's... cold. Achoo! I have to head out this morning to meet a client about a creditor dispute, but I also have to follow up on a consultation from last week by noon. All right, time to get to work. I'm a little sleepy. I know, a vigorous debate should wake me up, and I've got just the topic. The Northland Bank's presence in Liyue does more harm than good for our economy. So, are you for or against? The night market? I was planning on organizing some files this evening, but if you're going, I can join you. Oh, I should mention, lots of vendors go for the hard sell in the evenings because they want to be able to start with fresh produce the next day, but also don't want to lose profit on what they have left today. So, leave the negotiating to me, and if you have any leftovers, those can be my fee. Need a cure for insomnia? Let me read you the history of the development of Liyue's legal system. None of my friends have ever lasted longer than 20 minutes. Oh, you want something more fast-acting? Then I'll recite from the legal codices. Let me know in the morning which section I got to before you fell asleep. Okay, here I go. You think I come across as quite imposing when I'm reading through case files? Huh. Well, that's only when I'm in work mode. It's like I have an invisible switch. Flick it one way and I'm in normal mode. Flick it the other way and I switch to work mode. Surely you must have a switch like that too. Civil cases are the ones I dread the most. Divorces, custody disputes. It's a thankless task trying to unpack these kinds of cases with logic and reason. You have to be kind, courteous, and patient with your clients, even though half the time they are completely incapable of participating in a constructive discussion. I know I advertise myself as being fully versed in every area of the law, but honestly, if it were up to me, I'd rather everyone could just get along so we wouldn't have so many of these cases. You want legal advice from me? Sure. For legal opinions, I charge a flat rate of 6,000 mora. For advisory services, my hourly rate is 180,000 mora. And for commercial law, I charge 710,000 mora per case. Final quote and commission rate depending on the details of your case. Not a bad deal, right? If you're concerned about what kind of complicated issues you might get tied up in during your travels, your best bet is to bring someone with you who knows and understands the law. Someone like me, for example, whose expertise goes beyond just the law of Liyue. Well, actually, having said that, Fontaine's law is notoriously complicated. Though, with my level of intelligence, getting acquainted with it should be no problem. Anyway, my point is, you can always rely on me. Visions appear in response to strong desire. So as someone with ideals, it's only natural that I should have received one. Because above all, I wish for all people to live honest lives and abide by the law. But some people will always insist on playing by their own rules and causing havoc for everyone else. Those people can expect to be prosecuted so hard, they won't know what hit them. This steelyard balance was a gift from my father. It weighs objects to determine their value. I usually use Mora for the weight, but it can only give the original price. For example, 1,000 years ago, Liyue was covered in glazed lilies, and they weren't worth anything in monetary terms. Then, when they suddenly declined a number, the price shot up in response, but the value shown by the steelyard wasn't updated. It still shows them as their original value. In other words, dirt cheap. So, most of the time, this isn't a very useful tool for work purposes. Huh? You want to try weighing something? How about we could weigh your little friend here? Will that do? The Historia Naturalis Liyue has an entry about a waterborne plant called the horsetail. It claims that the horsetail is a medicinal herb that stands alone on the banks of Dihua Marsh. Its color is that of the clouds at sunset. Apparently, if you grind it into a powder and mix it into your ink, it makes your writing water-resistant. But it's a shame. I've been to Dihua Marsh at least 100 times, and each time I end up with baskets and baskets of the common purple variety, but not a single one of the kind that the book describes. I have a self-defense method that I call Wrath of the Flame, based on a punishment called the Wrath of the Rock, which is detailed in the ancient work, the Comprehensive Compendium of Liyue Law. The Lord of Geo is the god of contracts, and contracts, too, can be seen as a way of restraining people. Ergo, Liyue Harbor has been the city of contracts since time immemorial. I heard that little herb gatherer has written out a whole set of behavioral rules for herself. She may be small, but boy, has she got her head screwed on. She's definitely destined for greatness. The young of today shall outperform us tomorrow, as they say. I must admit, she has my respect. Ganyu is kind and thoughtful. It's just a shame she's so busy all the time. Most of the time, she's buried in an endless pile of paperwork, the only exception being her nap at noon. Don't get me wrong, I have to put in some hours at work too, but I'm happy with the job I've chosen, and it's certainly a lot less taxing than hers. The Feiyun Commerce Guild is one of my oldest clients. Their approach to business is meticulous and thorough, and every business meeting I've had with them has always been attended by the head of the house himself. Last time, though, I happened to meet their youngest, Xingqiu. To my complete surprise, the lad had no trouble whatsoever keeping up with my train of thought. He was very eloquent, too, and had excellent manners. Definitely not a simpleton. I always hear people saying that the director of the Wangsheng funeral parlor has an unorthodox approach to business. They think she's gone a little non-compos mentis after being in the funeral business so long. What are these people talking about? The Wangsheng funeral parlor provides a legitimate and necessary service, which is the cornerstone of any successful enterprise. Work is just work. There are no good and bad jobs or lucky and unlucky jobs, just jobs that need doing. If I had one gripe, it would be that the director rarely comes to me for legal advice. Mr. Zhongli has so much in-depth knowledge on so many topics, he's like a walking library, you know what I mean? He's a total savant, though he never flaunts it. I could tell just by looking at him. People like him rarely shy away from taking on complex problems alone, so in my estimation, he's certainly not a potential client. And yet, somehow, I can't help but think I know him from somewhere. It's hard to describe the feeling. I asked my father about it, and he just said something to the effect of he didn't know either, though he seemed a little evasive. It was so strange. Anyway, makes me wonder if my father is hiding something from me. All right then, if he won't tell me what's going on, I'll just have to find out for myself. You must have heard of the Tianquan Ningguang. She's the highest authority where the law is concerned, and often makes amendments to the legal codices. Every round of additions, retractions, and revisions generates mountains of material. Why, the latest edition of the legal codices contained 3 new laws, 121 revised legal annotations, and an array of new legal precedents. Archons know how long it's going to take me to commit them to memory. Still, she's a businesswoman at heart. I'm not about to let her beat me when it comes to the law. Once I finish memorizing these, I need to step up my productivity. The Yuheng doesn't deal with matters of the law, and thank goodness. Knowing Kuching's attitude toward work and ruthless efficiency, I'd end up losing a lot of work. Although, no, surely it wouldn't come to that. She's a stickler for doing things the right way. No doubt she'd offend people. But if she had someone like me as her legal assistant, no way. Why should an eminent legal expert such as myself be relegated to the role of assistant? If she needs legal counsel, she can come and find me. Eula saved me once, and we've kept up correspondence ever since. She's very familiar with the Knights of Favonius' legislation, but has never been one to be bound by convention. She uses cunning logic to deal with problems flexibly. Perhaps the reason we get along so easily is that I'm a similar type myself. Still, I'll never acquire that carefree spirit of hers. We are in very different professions after all. A client? Very pleased to meet you. Here's my card. I'm afraid I can't leave my desk today. If it's a dispute we're dealing with, then please bring the relevant parties here to see me. Let me just give you a breakdown of my fees. One moment. Huh? You came just to chat? No fee necessary then. So just to clarify, you came to chat as friends with a legal expert that you've never met before. Care to explain? These antlers? Oh, well, my father is an Adeptus, so I have Adeptus blood myself. Still, I was born during peacetime here in Liyue. I never signed a contract with Rex Lapis. Naturally, I don't have to concern myself with Adeptal affairs. I'm free to focus on the life I want to live. Works for me. Contracts of that magnitude, lifelong commitments? I've only ever signed one with my father. It's about living happily, I suppose. That's the kind of person he is. I'm proud of him for that. If he'd wanted me to sign a different contract, say, one about working myself into the ground, or stepping on others to achieve success, I would have ran away by now. Sometimes, the commercial disputes I handle don't end very pleasantly. The other party might win compensation way in excess of the damages, or pay damages far exceeding the costs. Such is the price of violating a contract. Some people say I'm pretty terrifying. Others try to avoid me altogether. But I don't need to explain myself to anyone. Since the very beginning, the welfare of Liyue has been my primary concern. Think about it. The origin of disputes can be traced back to the violation of contracts. People are a lot less likely to violate contracts when they see the fallout. Making sure that people realize the importance of contracts is a crucial part of my work. Most of the time, I feel that I have a happy and laid-back existence. I have a successful career, clothes on my back, and the freedom to go wherever I please. I've also got quite a way with words. Nobody can beat me in a debate, and yet there is no law or standard that can define a happy life. For me, interesting people and engaging affairs, knowing where to go and which path to choose, these are all enough to bring me happiness. And on that note, you too are a source of happiness for me. In any case, whatever the life you live, the most important thing is to respect and understand the law. After all, as soon as you stray from the law, the world begins to fall to ruin. My hobbies are reading and appraisal. Reading begets knowledge, appraisal improves judgment. As such, I read everything and appraise anything. If you don't believe me, bring something over sometime. If there's a market for it, my estimate won't be far off. Take this stone, for example. Must be... 600 mora. My friends from the communications office often get me to go fishing with them. They say it's to exchange angling tips, but deep down, everyone's keen to show off. I've gotten the better of everyone 100 different ways, but they continue to scrutinize my business. After so much success, it's gotten a little embarrassing. So every time, I end up taking advantage of my ingenious acting skills to make myself seem humble, you know? What's with the face? Are you doubting me? Oh, on that note, let me recommend my one true love. Tofu. Tofu all the way. Light in flavor, tender in texture, not to mention smooth and nourishing. It goes well with all manner of soups and dishes, and more importantly, it's available throughout the seasons. Beauty over complexity. Tofu dishes are my kind of flavor. I don't like cold dishes. Maybe it's because I rarely eat them. When I would get home late, my father used to keep a lantern lit for me. He'd hear me coming and ask me if I was hungry. In his words, the best dishes are served hot. Happy birthday! Here, this is for you. I've collated legislation from all the nations. You're planning to go traveling, right? It will serve you well to familiarize yourself with the laws of the different lands. Don't study too hard, mind you, or else I won't be of any use to you. Do not seek to emulate the past, for there is no law that can suffice for all time. This is a lesson I must always bear in mind. Only by adhering to the law can the people solve life's myriad of problems. Studying the law allows one to have grounded conversations, whilst learning martial arts allows one to prevail against groundless violence. Hey, wait a minute. Does this count as martial arts? Well, I guess I've mastered both the pen and the sword. I've been lucky to have you with me through to the end of my training. Compensation? A 24-hour specialist personal advisor? Sounds good, but no haggling.